Today, we're going to talk about a story that's, well, it's incredibly tough, but it's also incredibly important. It's about a little girl, a tragedy that never should have happened, and the devastating cost of neglect.
And this line, this is how the story begins. It just puts you right there in the room, doesn't it? That kind of silence, it's more than just quiet. It's a sign that something is terribly, terribly wrong.
So what exactly was waiting behind that awful silence? Let's get into what was discovered. The date is November 18th. We're in Oklahoma City, at a small, unassuming home on Northeast 26th Street. Police are called there to do a welfare check, just to make sure everything's okay. They had no idea what they were about to find.
And what they found? It's just heartbreaking. Behind a bedroom door was little Locklynn McGuire. She was only 2 years old, and she was gone. The cause of death? An attack by one of the family's own dogs. Just a toddler, weeks away from her 3rd birthday.
But here's the thing that changes everything. This wasn't some split-second tragic accident. The real core of this case, what the investigators honed in on, was that Locklynn had been left all alone, completely unsupervised. And not just for a minute or two, but for what they called a substantial period of time.
And that one detail, that she was alone for so long, that's what shifts this whole story. How does a tragedy become a crime? This is how.
It's so important to understand this distinction because this is exactly what was going through the investigators' minds. You see, there's a huge difference between a tragic accident, right? Like a kid wandering into the street for a second. That's one thing. But what they saw here was something else entirely. It was a child being placed in danger, not a momentary lapse, but a prolonged, reckless lack of care.
And the moment detectives realized just how long she'd been by herself, well, that's when everything changed. The whole tone of the case, as the source says, shifted permanently from accident to crime. It wasn't just about a tragedy anymore. It was about finding out who was responsible.
So, where does that shift lead? It leads directly to some very, very serious legal consequences for the two people who are supposed to be keeping her safe.
So just 3 days after Locklynn was found, her parents, Jordan McGuire and Darci Lambert, were arrested. And listen to the charge. It wasn't negligence. It wasn't manslaughter. It was second-degree murder. That tells you everything you need to know about how seriously investigators took their actions, or rather, their inaction.
So let's just lay this out. On November 18th, Locklynn is found. Just 3 days later, on the 21st, her parents are in custody. And now, the case is headed for a criminal trial. That's where the full story, the full accountability, will hopefully come to light.
But with all the talk of police reports and legal charges, it's so easy to lose sight of what's really at the heart of this. And that's a little girl. We need to remember her.
So, who was Locklynn McGuire? Who was this little girl with the soft laugh that could apparently make anyone smile? Her own family said she was pure joy, that she had a light inside her. Can you imagine a more beautiful way to describe a child? These aren't just empty words. They're trying to capture the essence of a person she was already becoming.
And it's not just her family. A GoFundMe page that was set up for her said the same kinds of things. It described her as curious, as someone who loved deeply and was deeply loved. And that just makes it all the more devastating, right? This innocent, trusting little soul who wasn't protected.
And this is the real scale of the loss. It's not just about a life that was lived for 2 short years. It's about an entire future that was just erased. She'll never have another birthday. She'll never go to her first day of school or learn to write her own name. She'll never run to greet someone she loves at the door. We lost the woman she was supposed to become. A story like this, it leaves a mark. It's a wound for the community for sure, but it's also a warning for all of us.
Because when you strip everything else away, this isn't just a case file. It's a brutal, gut-wrenching reminder of a simple truth. Children rely on us, completely, for their safety, for their very lives.
Just think about this number. 1.
One single moment of neglect. One bad decision. One failure to be there. That is all it takes to wipe out an entire lifetime. Everything she could have been, just gone.
And this last quote really gets to the heart of it all. No child should ever die afraid, alone, and waiting for someone who should have come sooner. That's it, right? That's the bare minimum. It's what every single child deserves.
And so we're left with this question, and it's a really uncomfortable one. Why? Why does it take a tragedy like this for us to remember something so basic, to remember just how fragile they are and how much they need us to protect them?